Yes, hello, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more scintillating Q&A. News just in is that the speed stick has just been updated. I've put a link in the live chat if you want to check out what your current standing is on the speed stick. But the speed stick is really picking up pace now, so well worth a look. I'm also going to be putting out another speed stick update video because of the volume of people who are on the speed stick now, and it deserves another update. Because otherwise the next update is going to be far too significant with too many new arrivals. So hello to everybody who's on live at the moment. It's great to have such a great amount of people with me, even from the beginning. Thanks very much for tuning in. I just thought I would poke in straight away with perhaps one of my best ideas of late, which is regarding the speed stick. As you will know, this year, along with the speed stick, we've got the Hobie Getaway Speed Stick Challenge, where there's going to be a special prize for the fastest getaway of the year. So if you've got the opportunity to go and rent a getaway somewhere, or if you've got a getaway, or if you know someone with a getaway, let's see how fast you can go on a Hobie Getaway. So just today, one of our regular viewers, Matt in Baltimore, USA, I believe, registered a good speed on the stick, and it sparked the idea for next year's challenge. Are you ready for this? I'm not sure if you are. It is going to be, what is the fastest yellow Hobie 16 of the year? Oh, yes. I am into that as an idea. So there we go. So if you haven't been to one of these before, this is a live Q&A session. It's being recorded live, and you might be watching this later on, or you might be watching it live. So if you're watching it live, do say hello in the live chat. Don't forget to hit the like button as well, because that is really helpful. But I'm just going to check in with everybody who's checking in. So starting off with Charlie Sailing. Hello, Charlie. Nice to have you on board. Are you going to be visiting us this summer? Be nice to see you on the beach. We've got Vinicius, who says, I have a Hobie Cat 14 Turbo. Question: what is the closest upwind angle I can go with it? I'm a beginner, and I've heard the Hobie Cat does very poorly against the wind. Not actually that bad. If you were to compare, well, generally speaking, upwind sailing angles, everybody, if we just draw our classic kind of points of sail kind of diagram, if that's the wind, most boats will sail somewhere in the vicinity of 45 degrees either side of the wind. And the Hobie 14 is no exception to that rule. In lighter winds, if you want to get a boat like a 14 going nicely, you might have to be a few degrees further down than 45. But as the wind increases to about, I don't know, 10 knots of wind, when you can start to just lift the windward hull a little bit, then you should be able to hit a 45-degree angle. Now, where people are saying it doesn't do so well going upwind, it's because other types of boat do better. And the types of boat we're talking about are boats which have daggerboards. So a boat with a daggerboard is going to have a better stabilizing, leeway preventing device in the water. So that is sailing very close to the wind, but something like a laser is definitely going to be able to sail closer than a Hobie 14 through the wind. But this is why when the wind is light, especially, it's important to not try to sail too close to the wind, because if you do, you're not going to be getting any lift off your hull and off your rudder blades. Because the thing that's going to help us to sail closer to the wind is by getting more lift from the hull and the rudder blade. So the reason that the deep dagger boards on a laser or on an F-18, for example, are working better is that in lighter winds, they'll be developing more lift, which is going to help them to get closer to the wind. Whereas on a boat with an asymmetric hull, which is shaped like this, so it's this flat side of the hull, which is giving us our lift, but because it is extremely low aspect compared to a deep dagger board, we have to be going much faster to develop the same amount of lift as you would get off a dagger board hull. So I wouldn't say it does poorly, it just doesn't do as well as more modern designs of hull shape. There we go. Little bit more light from the left. I hope that helps or puts a bit of light on the subject. So continuing with everybody who's with us live, we've got Gaetan Rossia. Great to have you with us. Hello. And we've got Benny on board in Sweden. Now, you're not going to believe it, Benny. Well, you probably will. It might even look slightly familiar, but last week in the Q&A, Benny was talking about a method that he uses for putting his mast up on the boat, and I was a little bit confused as to what he meant by the technique. So Benny was good enough to go out and actually make me a video of how the process worked. So this that you can see on the board already, this is Benny's side-on mast raising technique. So I'm just going to talk you through it as far as I can see how it works. So what we start with is the forestay. I don't even know if I can draw. I won't draw it on because it'll be messy. But the forestay and the bottom shroud connected. Is this right? Yes, it is. So the forestay and the bottom, the shroud that's going to go onto the bottom hull connected. This is the boat, by the way. This is land. And this is some sort of post which is being used to support the boat to stop it from just coming down. Is everybody with me? It's a great diagram. I took the effort to draw it ahead of time. So the this is stage one. Get the hull in this position on the post. I'd have to ask Benny in the live chat. Benny, are you able to get the boat in that position on your own? So are you able to push the boat up and support it on your own? Question number one for Benny. All right. So if that's a yes, because I would see the advantage from this method is the solo mast raising. Okay. So step number two, we've got the leeward shroud attached and the forestay attached. I'm guessing with the shrouds on the top hole, with the shroud on the top hole to allow the mast to be a bit looser. We then lift the base of the mast up and attach it to the mast base. So this is the mast in position number two. Leeward shroud is attached. forestay is attached. And then once we've got that leeward shroud attached, I haven't actually tried this, but this is what I'm kind of assuming, is once that's attached, we can then push the boat into the fully capsized on land position. So up to here, because the shroud at the bottom is going to stop the boat from going any further, because the mast and that shroud and the forestay are going to be supporting the hulls. So then with with this then in this position, we can then attach the hull, the shroud at the top, and there we are. In that position, the mast is then up. So all we would then need to do is put the boat upright, and then we can tighten the rig and off we go. Now, all right, Benny says it's too heavy for him to do on his own, so he does recruit some help to get the boat into position number one. Now, I hate to say it, but I have got some reservations on this method. That is because of previous experience, something that's happened to me in the past. So if we go back to position 1 or 2, I would have thought the reason for using this method is so that you can do it on your own, because otherwise, unless you're limited for space, I don't see the reason for going to this amount of risk, because I feel that there is risk involved. Where is this risk, you may ask? Well, if when you've got the mast in here, in the mast step, boat on its side, if you're then putting the boat more upright so that you can get the top shroud on, if for any reason something went wrong, and heaven forbid your mast jumped out of the mast step, what has happened to me in the past, this was a long time ago, I was actually foolishly trying to change a shroud with the boat on its side. I was about 16 years old at the time, and I didn't think it through. What happened to me was the mast foot jumped out, meaning that the whole weight of the boat came down, fell onto the mast, and put a big dent in the mast here, quite low down, which meant that I had to pretty much throw that mast away, because a big dent in the mast low down, that is where a lot of the stress is on the mast. The lower down you go, the more stress that part of the mast is taking, because there's more load higher up above it. So boat fell down on the mast, denting the mast. It meant I had to get another mast. This is why I'm a little bit wary of this method. And then once you get the boat all connected up, you'd probably have to recruit help to right the boat completely anyway. So for this reason, I am thinking, for safety and for control of actually doing the whole thing, personally, I prefer the technique with boat sitting in the normal position, person at the mast foot monitoring the mast, shrouds connected, and levering the mast up from behind. That is my opinion on this topic. There we go. All right, Declan is saying audio level drops right off when you turn and speak towards the whiteboard. Perhaps move the microphone to a better position, which might be over here. Let's see how that works out. Thanks for the heads up there. All right, so Benny says I used my upper jib sheet connected to hold one trapeze wire to hold the mast in place. Yeah, if it's working for you, and I'm sure it is, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, I would say, yeah, stick with it if it works for you. But for me, I think I'm going to stick with what I do, because to be honest, whatever your method is for anything, not just in sailing, but probably also in life, you might as well, if it works, stick with it. Sorry, I'm just having a little studio modification here. I was being a bit shadowy. All right, I hope that's better for the audio anyway. All right, so I am going to leave that there. Thanks very much again, Benny, for sending us the video of that. And I'd just like to say hello to Cult of Dawn. Nice to have you on board, Cult of Dawn. Great stuff. All right, so Gaetan Rossia is tuned in from Switzerland. Nice to have you on board. How is the heat in Switzerland at the moment? It is still absolutely roasting here in Greece. It's not as hot as it was, but it is certainly hot enough. All right, we've got Jens on board in cold Germany. Hi, Jens. Great to hear from you. Jens is a channel member, which means he's supporting Joyrider TV and getting some sweet channel membership perks. Perhaps not as many as there could be, but it's early days. Cult of Dawn says, who's that guy? Joyrider. You could be right. Oh, I see. Sorry, I had a bit of a cough. All right, we've got Leland Lee in Clearwater, Florida. Great to have you with us. And we got Dave on board, Hobie 16 Amateur Hour, who I'm not sure if you've still got it, Dave, but if you've still got your yellow 16, next year's speed stick could be the cause for getting her out and getting on the stick. All right, we've got channel member Mark on board in Northern Ontario, Canada. Great to have you with us, Mark, and thank you for your continued support. All right. Cult of Dawn says, what about a boat race? Yeah, I think that could be very cool. If in the future, as I move to, let's call it phase 2 with Joyrider TV, maybe at some point I will be hosting some sort of boat race. It's likely to be somewhere, first one, to make it a bit easier for me to organize, is likely to be somewhere in Europe, but perhaps some sort of Joyrider TV festival of something or other, some sort of good sailing somewhere in Europe. And we'll see where is the best venue for doing such a thing, and how many boats could we get to attend. What do we think? I think it's a great idea. All right. So Gaetan says, did you already sail on a Topaz 12? I sail on one. No, never tried the Topaz 12. I'm like with all types of catamaran and boat. In fact, I would absolutely love to try all the different types of boat, just so that I have a better understanding of what they're all good for, and what their unique, let's say unique selling point is of each boat. I know the Topaz boat's unique selling point is they're very, very durable, very strong, and they go very well. So I would like to try one, definitely. All right, Lee says, there is now a reason to paint my Hobie 16 yellow. Oh, yes. If you ever needed a reason, yellow hulls. This is the Cat Fever Joyrider t-shirt, available at one online store that I know of. All right, we've got channel member Aaron on board. Good morning from New Zealand. Gosh, it must be captain early there. What is it, about either be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I should think. All right, we've got Jeremy on board in France. Nice to have you with us, Jeremy. And it's always nice to know that we are hitting the corners of the globe. I like that feature. All right, we've got Declan in Stockholm, a wet Stockholm, Sweden, of course. Great. Denmark, Sweden. Beg your pardon. Mine's a bit frazzled. Long day in the sun. All right, Leo's with us. And Leo, I've lost Leo. And Leo has one question. All right, so but before Leo got in with his question, Colt of Dawn says, recently I had a problem with my gas boat. Do I have to change the veil? I'd have to say I have absolutely no idea about what you're talking about. So you will have to elaborate somewhat because I really don't know what it is you're talking about. All right, before we go on to the next question, I'd just like to say hello to Thorn G, who's just stepped in with a super, what is it, super chat or super sticker. Thank you very much for your very generous donation, Thorn G. So this is how it works. I'm going to go back to Lee's question in a second, but if you want your question answering immediately, just hit me with a super sticker and that will put you to the top of the queue. Do not be alarmed if you've already left a comment or a question, but I will be, every question will be responded to, but the super sticker gives you the top of the queue status. So Fawn G is coming in from cold Germany and the Netherlands. Like to repeat, you can talk about the topic, should I attach myself to the boat all night long, or you can simply watch Joe in his video on Joyrider TV. Yes, so I'm sure everyone will have seen it by now. If not, there's always a chance. But I did make the video about attaching yourself to the boat so that if you fall off the boat, you will not be separated from the boat. Very good. And thanks to everybody for helping me in my journey to what is the best way of doing this. Like Declan came out to Wildwind and we hung out, and Declan had been doing some research of his own, and this was really valuable in coming up with what we felt was a good end result. Thanks very much to Justin for the super sticker, super chat. I should really know what it's called, but either of those. So scrolling back, got Leo's question. So Leo has a Hobie 16, and we're talking about the anti-pitch pole foils. I want to make them myself instead of paying quite a lot of cash. I could design them in CAD, but I just need the measurements. Okay, I think that is something that we can do. Perhaps, Leo, best thing to do there, as a reminder, because otherwise I will forget, is if you send me an email, I'm just going to type the email address into the live chat. It's totaljoyrider@icloud.com. I'll put it in the live chat. If you email me with that request, tomorrow I will measure up and I can photograph that pitch pole plates and with the measurements on there so that you can see. In fact, what I will do also is I will put those diagrams on my Patreon page, so that everyone over there can see as well. And you don't have to sign up to Patreon to see some of the posts on the page. So you will be able to just check that out there. Thank you very much. All right. So we've got Jesus on board, or Jesus. What do you think about making day trips, making large distances, sleeping the night on the catamaran and the next day go on with the travel? I think this is one of the best possible things that you can do with a catamaran. Just the nature of the catamaran having two hulls, that means that the boat will sit on the beach very nicely like a stable platform, which is raised up as well. So sleeping on the boat is such a great idea, because being off the ground mean that you're less likely to be attacked in your sleep by insects and things that either crawl or sliver or perhaps nibble your toes. Yeah, it is a great idea. There are, if you do some research, I've seen many pictures of people who've found the correct size tent. So if this is the boat back beam, front beam, mast, this is a tent, by the way, on the trampoline, and it looks like a really, really good solution for going camping or on a couple of days excursion. Very nice indeed. I say yes, yes, and yes. And from next year, if you didn't hear, next year I am giving up my kind of day job, working on the Wildwind Beach after 28 years of working on the Wildwind Beach. It's time for me to hang up my ceremonial flip-flops of power. And I will then have the opportunity to do things like this, where I can jump on the boat, sail around some of the nearby islands, camp on the beach. Lovely time, expeditions, very nice. Am I looking forward to that? What do you think? I think so. All right. So Declan says, take a look at the speed stick. Oh, yes, I agree. If you go to the top of the live chat, you'll see a link to the speed stick. Sorry. All right, just scrolling through. All right, I think, Leo, we're talking about the anti-pitch pole foils. He says, are they even helping very much? I would say yes, they definitely make a difference. But personally, I see it as it's not going to make you go faster, but perhaps it's going to give you a bit more confidence to push the boat a bit harder. I think the place where they're really going to come into play, and sorry if you don't know what we're talking about here, these anti-pitch pole plates are basically, they're built for Hobie 14, Hobie 16, Hobie 18, and they basically, it's a metal plate that is shaped like this, and it fits under the gunnel at the front of the boat. So it gives some resistance at the front of the boat. So if the front of the boat was going to dig into the water, before it can go under the water, it's going to hit this plate, and that plate is going to give enough resistance to stop it from nosediving. Now, in the testing, what we found is, yes, it offers some resistance, But if you are really going for a pitch pole, a big nosedive, it's not going to actually offer enough resistance against that force. So you are still going to pitch pole. And with the plates on, they actually help you to pitch pole harder. If it's going to go, you're going to go bigger. There you go. All right. So we've got Justin, who says, can you explain daggerboard positioning? Yes, we can. All right. We'll start off with the quick explanation, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail. So if this is the midsection of the hull, and we'll start off with upwind position when we're not totally overpowered. So upwind, we're going to have the daggerboard all the way down. This is so that we get the maximum amount of lift, the maximum amount of leeway prevention from the daggerboard, and this is going to give us the best performance upwind. And so perhaps we'll, so this is the quick explanation first. So next we'll move on to downwind sailing. On the downwind sailing, we are going to lift the daggerboard This is the hull, by the way, goes over there. We're going to lift the daggerboard, and what we found to be optimal, the amount of daggerboard that we have up, is so that the amount that we have under the boat is the same length as the rudder blade. So I can't remember exactly what the measurement is, but on the Hobie Tiger, I'm pretty sure it means when we have the daggerboard up in the downwind position, this is just for the Hobie Tiger, because that's what I did most of my research on, we're going to have 48 centimeters above the deck. This is going to differ for different types of boat. Best way of doing it, put the boat on its side, measure how much rudder blade sits beneath the hull, and then measure the daggerboard so that there's the same amount of that, and then take a measurement at the top, what's left, and then put a mark with a permanent pen on your daggerboard so you know every time exactly how much you should be lifting it. And then if you're reaching, sailing with two sails, if it's lighter winds, we're going to go a bit halfway between here and here. But then if it's stronger winds and you're double trapezing reaching, then we're going to go to the downwind position for reaching as well. Now, the difference comes if you're sailing upwind and you are totally overpowered. So you've got the mainsail overpowered as much as possible. You've got the downhaul on full. Perhaps you brought the mast rotation in somewhat, and you're still feeling like you've got too much power. Then you can lift the daggerboard, because that is going to, what the daggerboard does when you're starting to get too much power is it's going to give you too much lift, and your windward hull is going to start becoming a bit jumpy every little gust, and your windward hull is going to come like jump out of the water. So lifting the daggerboard a bit, like even about 20 centimeters above the deck, is going to allow the boat to slide sideways a bit more, which is going to make the boat feel less jumpy, more stable. You'll be able to sail smoother, and it's going to be more efficient. And of course, you can lift it more as well, up to this 48 centimeter point, or whatever the same point is as the rudder blades. So if it's really windy and you're not racing, if you're just sailing for fun, like if we're sailing in the afternoon here in Vasiliki Bay, just blasting around, we'll just put the daggerboards up to this point all of the time, so then we don't need to worry about them. And to be honest, what we've actually done is we've made a set of daggerboards out of some old snapped ones, which have this amount under the boat, but the top is flush. So we can just leave those ones down all the time. They've had 48 centimeters cut off the top, which makes it really nice for just blasting around easy. Cheers. Okay, thanks for the question. Very good. All right, Declan says, all right, here we go. I think we're on mast raising. Use a line with a 2-to-1 block on the forestay. Bring that line back to the main sheet block. All right, okay. And then Declan has a long pole and with a this is a method number 5, probably, for putting the mast up. If this is the boat, so Declan's method is long pole behind the boat. What you could actually use, if your boat isn't sat on its road trailer, is you could use the mast crutch from the road trailer behind the boat. So it sits here. And then that's going to hold the boat, the mast, after everything's connected up, of course. And then what Declan is doing is having the forestay with a 2-to-1 attached to the bridle wires, I should think. And then you pull it. And as long as the mast is up to, I think, does it need to be 45 degrees? Perhaps not quite as many as 45 degrees. And then pulling this line, the mast goes up. Of course, that means you have to have your mast-based security to make sure it's not going to jump out. There we go. All right, so we've got Alexandros on board. Hello and welcome on board, and great to have you with us. So Office Hands Dave says, I'm of the opinion that the anti-pitch pole devices are not worth the effort. Yeah, that was kind of my end result with the anti-pitch pole plate story. It kind of felt to me like it was, I'm not going to say like sailing in clown shoes, but sailing with water wings on or something, or a little bit of a dumbing down of the sailing experience of the Hobie 16, where it is preventable to avoid sticking the nose in from better trimming of the sails and weight position. But if you're sailing in big waves and sticking your nose in is an issue, then I haven't tried that. So maybe I will. If we get some conditions later on in the season with waves, I might fit the pitch pole plates back to one of the 16s and go and see how they perform with some waves. All right, Leo says he's also from Germany. Would have been sailing in Greece this week on a Pogo 36, but cancelled because of the extreme heat. Yeah, I can't blame you for that. It has been so hot. Definitely. All right, Dave says, I'm going to go and buy back my yellow Hobie 16. Great stuff. All right, so Declan's mast putting up story continues. I then push the mast up opposed to a shroud, which keeps a triangulation with the mast and the shroud. Yeah, it means I push the mast out to the side and then walk forwards and both shrouds tension up. And I have the forestay tensioned with the main sheet cleat. Great stuff. Okay, we've got PJB on board. Hello, nice to have you with us. Thanks for the tips on sailing without the rudders. That was last week. I've got a question about distributing weight for racing. Do you have any tips? Yeah, I think yes. Let's say yes. All right, so let's have a look. I can't remember what type of boat you were sailing on, but I'm guessing it was on a 16. In case anybody would like to know, the reason my default guess of what anyone's boat is a Hobie 16, that is because, I may have said this before, by the way, there are more Hobie 16s in the world than every other catamaran put together. So it does make sense that it would be a Hobie 16 that we're talking about. Apologies for everyone who doesn't sail Hobie 16s, or in fact is a Hobie 16 hater, that there's so much 16 chat here. But the general techniques that we discuss on Joyrider TV, if you can do it on a Hobie 16, you can do it on anything, because it requires better technique for the maneuvers on a 16. There we go. That is my little piece on that. So crew positions. Sorry. So upwind, we're going to have helm and crew up by the front beam. And then what we're trying to achieve upwind is to have the boat flat, so parallel with the horizon. We don't want the bows tilted down on the upwind because we're going to be losing rudder blade in the water, and we're getting a lot of our lift off the rudder blades. This is the same for every type of boat. We're trying to get the boat flat on the upwind. So if we draw on here also, a sort of F-18 style boat. Now, because of the volume on the F-18, to achieve the same thing, our upwind positions, light wind, it's going to be helm and crew. So crew right next to the front beam in front, helm right next to the front beam behind. This is where you need to be on that type of boat. And then just continuing the upwind story, what's going to happen is as we start getting more wind, we're going to be loading up the leeward hull more, which means as it loads up, we're going to need to trim back a little bit. So on the 16, we're going to be more like this. And then on the F-18 style boat, it doesn't take as much wind for the crew to actually get out onto the trapeze. And you'll notice that in a fore and aft, that's forwards and backwards plane, we are keeping the weight as close together as possible. This is the most efficient way of doing it. If we have the weight further apart, it's more windage on the boat, but also it's going to make the boat less stable. So it's more likely to start rocking like a seesaw. So we're keeping the weight close. And then as the wind gets stronger, so let's say we're now in double trapezing conditions, we're able to lift the hull. On both types of boat, we want to be focusing the weight on the upwind around the center of lateral resistance. So perhaps on here, we're a little bit too far forwards, because if the daggerboard is here, so we'll actually be more like here. and we'll get rid of him. And then as the wind increases and we're loading up that leeward hull even more, if we're risking the boat down even slightly at the front on the upwind, then we're going to come back slightly. Just because, again, any wind strength, we want to have the boat completely flat like that. Okay, then on the downwinds, we're just going to talk upwind, downwind here. On the 16 type style of boat, we want the further in the light winds, the further downwind that we go, the deeper, the further forwards that we go, the deeper we're going to be able to sail. On the downwind point of sail on a 16, we don't need to get the lift from the rudder blades. So we can sit on the pylons, on the castings like this. So you've got your feet on the decks of the boat in front, and you can sit quite comfortably there. And that is a good place to sit on the boat in the light winds. Then on the F-18 style boat, the helm will come in towards the mast, really close up to the front beam. The crew over here on the leeward side next to the front beam. Again, you'll notice fore and aft, we're on the same line. So we're not going to get that seesawing or excessive rocking on the boat. And then again, as the wind starts to increase, we're going to risk sticking the deck of the boat under the water. So we're going to start moving backwards slightly, which is kind of as it sounds. So it's going to be for the helm, as the crew, as the wind increases, it's just going to be a gradual migration down the boat until in strong winds, you're going to be right on this back corner of the trampoline. And then for the crew, we're going to have a gradual migration this way across the boat as the wind increases. And it is the same on the F-18 style boat as well. So we're probably going to, helm is going to go this way, crew is going to go this way a bit. So that's the next spot. And then from there, we're going to go backwards. Then we're going to start moving across. And then on the F-18 style boat, strong winds, we're going to have the crew on the trapeze because we've got the kite up, helm here. On the 16 style boat, we're going to have helm and crew sat on each other's lap right at the back of the boat. There we go. Thanks very much for the question there, PJB. Hope that's helpful. At this stage in the game, 48 minutes has expired. So if I could ask no further questions, please, now in the live. If you have got any questions that are unanswered after this session, please feel free to put them in the comments section below, and I will respond to your questions in next week's Q&A as part of the preloaded section, which we're about to come on to. But at this stage in the game, I'm just going to take a short commercial break. Whew. That's got some tang. Very nice. All right, and as you were. Just like to say during this commercial break, thank you so much to everybody who has been supporting the Tornado Worlds Fund on Joyrider TV to get basically to help to fund me going to Italy in how long? 2 weeks' time, in fact. In 2 weeks, I will be in Italy getting ready to sail in the World Championships. So thank you so much to everybody who has contributed to that fund. Thanks again, of course, to everybody who supports the channel by other means, whether it's through Patreon or channel memberships, or just by visiting totaljoyrider.com and picking up a Cat Fever t-shirt like this. Thank you. All right. So Declan says, here we go. I suggest a Baltic, Mediterranean and Caribbean race series for Joyrider TV. Yeah, I like the sound of that. All right. So just scrolling down. Oh, Dave says, if you can 3D print, you could be the first guy to try wings on your rudders to hold the sterns down as your speed increases, like foiling boat rudder winglets. Okay, let's try that. I think I could probably find an old set of rudder blades, and perhaps what I could use is an old set of kiteboarding fins epoxied on to the rudder blades, and off we go. We're off to the races. Very nice. All right, I'd just like to say thanks very much to Cux Ollie for the super chat, super sticker. Very much appreciated. All right, and we're back in the live chat. Hello to Scott, dropping it in the slot. Coltus Lake, Idaho, I think. Oregon, I can't remember. The mind has gone. But Scott is at the moment leading the charge for single-handed Hobie 16s on the speed stick. Check out the speed stick. All right. So Declan says, can you recommend the shackle that you used in the tethering video? Brilliant video. Can I buy the shackle in your Amazon store? I think what Declan is saying is if he can't, he should be able to. All right, what I'm going to say, Declan, is no, it's not in the store at the moment, but it soon will be. Leave that with me. Okay. Scott says, main sheet length recommended is 10 meters. What do you run on your boats at Wildwind when block to block there is a lot of rope to try to keep out of the water? Yes, so 10 meters is the standard length for a Hobie 16 main sheet with a 6-to-1 system. But on the boats at Wildwind, the older boats, which have the older main sheets, we were down to 8 meters. Because what I have found, and I don't even believe it, but it must be true, is the rope that I like to use, which is called Maffioli Swift Cord. It is, I think it's one of the best ropes that you can get for your boat. But this rope, over time, when exposed to a lot of salt water and hot sunshine, the rope shrinks. So the main sheets on our boats are around 8 meters, much shorter. And what you could do, I might have said this before, but if you've got a 10-meter main sheet, is you could have that 10-meter main sheet and use it, but shorten it. So if this is the boat, if you find that in certain conditions your main sheet is too long, but you don't want to cut it because in other conditions you like having that length, what you could do is where you tie the main sheet, the traveler, off at the back, like if you've got a little fair lead like this, rather than tying it off there, you could put it so it goes through there. Yes, you'll need to tie a knot, but then have a tail that is maybe 2 meters long, and that tail can go underneath the trampoline, tie off to the dolphin striker, and then you don't need to cut the rope. You've got an extra rope to hold on to if you capsize. And if you feel you need a bit more main sheet rope, then you can just change your traveler knot, and there you are. You've got it. I think that's a good idea. All right. Gitan says, it can be very cool if you make a video about knots on a boat. Yeah, I did actually already make a video on the topic of knots, the most commonly used knots that we use in sailing these types of boats. I'll try to dig that up for you later, but you will find it if you search Hobie Cat knots. You can find it. To be honest, there are so many videos now on the channel. I think I haven't even checked, but there's got to be over 900 videos on Joyrider TV. And I will be indexing them again, but there is currently an index of all the videos up to about 2 years ago, including knots, how to thread your main sheet, all sorts of things. You can find that list on Patreon. You don't have to sign up to see it. Just head over to Patreon and you can see the full index of videos in a format which is easy to watch. Otherwise, just check out the playlists. If you go to the Joyrider TV YouTube channel itself and then click on playlists, they are organized to make it easier to find stuff. All right, so Justin says, can you explain daggerboard positioning? Yes, I think we did that. All right, we've got Cabe on board. Nice to have you with us, Cabe. Willis is with us. Yes, Willis. Nice to see you. Erzurum says, and hello, do you have any advice shopping for used cats? What to look for, what to avoid, etc. Thanks from Virginia. Okay, we're just going to have the short answer on that because I have made some videos on what to look for. I've done one video on what to look for when buying a Hobie 16 style catamaran, and that includes how much things are going to cost you if they're not perhaps as good as they might be. And then I more recently made the same video for what to look for if you're buying a F18 Tornado, Hobie Tiger, Hobie 20 type boat. You'll find those on the channel. But all right, what would I look for if I was going to buy a used boat? It depends a little bit. Am I looking for an absolute bargain to get out on the water, like what I would call in the bargain class of catamarans that we talk about here is anything under about $2,000 is a bargain if it's in a seaworthy state. Seaworthy state, what we're looking at for that is, firstly, we want to make sure that there are no soft bits on the hulls. The most common places for the hulls to be soft are just forwards of the front beam. So if you're looking at a boat forwards of the front beam, just give it a bit of a push, bit like CPR on the deck of the boat. If it squidges inwards and perhaps makes a noise like sort of walking on snow kind of noise, this means the hull is delaminated and it needs attention. You should then do the same for the sides of the hulls as well. If the sides of the hulls are soft, then I would really consider leaving that boat alone because it really does need quite urgently a repair. We'd then want to look at obvious things like the quality of the sails. If the sails are coloured, if the colours are very faded, it probably means that the cloth on the sails has had a lot of UV, which means that they are going to tear quite easily. And if you have them repaired, the bit on the side of the repair is then very easily going to tear. So something to consider. Then around the fittings on the boats are the next one. Oh yeah, this is a big one. If you're shopping for a Hobie 16, exaggerated hull shape of a Hobie 16. If you get your friend to lift one of the bows of the boats up in the air, in fact, you could do this with any type of boat. Lift one of the bows up in the air. Does the other hull come up off the ground at a similar time? With an older boat, especially like this sort of design, there's always going to be a bit of flex, like, but if there's a lot, like if you can lift it up to waist level and the other hull doesn't move, that is probably a no. However, if it does move a lot and you really like the look of the boat, the next thing you should do is do the same thing. And then we want to look at where that movement is coming from. If it's coming from where the pylon meets the casting, so this is where the casting goes over the top. If the movement comes from this joint, then that is better. But if the movement, this is here where the pylon goes into the hull, if the movement comes from here, this joint here, I would say that is an absolute don't touch it. There we go. That's the brief version. We are getting towards the end. I've still got a preloaded question I'd like to squeeze in. So I am going for short answers now. Right, we've got Rico on board. Hi, Rico. Great to have you with us. We've got Nubly Productions. Guten Tag from Germany. Nice to have you on board. Jill's on board in Tampa. Hi, Jill. All right, Racket08 says, do you have any advice on roll tack with a Hobie 16? Yeah, it's quite a big question. And to be honest, it isn't something that I've worked on that often. But what the roll tack would be is moving our weight on the boat to encourage it to turn more quickly through the wind. So if we look at the boat, and if we think we're going to be tacking this way, first thing to think about, which hull is going to sail a larger distance? This hull, so there's the sail, so we're on the port tack. So in this situation, the starboard hull has to turn a lot further than the port hull, which means if we keep our weight off the starboard hull for as long as possible until pretty much we've only just finished the turn, then it means we're going to get through the tack much more quickly and much more efficiently. So if we stay on this hull, so helm here, crew here, for as long as possible, lighter winds, because if we try doing this when it's windy, we are quite likely to, we're increasing the chances of a capsize. But if we stay on the windward hull for as long as possible until at least the boomers come across before we move across the boat, then that is how we can improve our turning through the wind. Also, you'll notice I've put these people towards the back of the boat, because then what we're doing is we're loading up the rudders a little bit more, which is going to help to turn the boat. But we're also lifting the bows a bit, which is going to stop having quite so much of this lateral grip. If the bows are up, the boat's going to pivot more on the sterns. So what we can do is move to the back, turn when the jib backs. So when the wind comes in the other side of the jib, that's the time to start looking at moving across the boat. And in the light winds, what we want to be doing is when we're moving around the boat, to not disturb the airflow, we want to be making mouse-like movements. If you think mouse rather than elephant around the boat, so that the boat isn't bouncing as you move around, this is really going to help. All right. Hope that helps. It's certainly something I should be applying in my own sailing as well. So thanks for pointing that out. All right. Willis says there are more of us watching live than there are likes. So please hit the like button right now. Yes. Thanks very much for that, Willis. It is a very good point. By hitting the like button, by the way, is the easiest way of supporting the channel, because when you hit the like button, what it does is it means that YouTube will put the video in front of more people, which means more people will watch it. There we go. Okay. So, where are we now? All right, we've got Graham on board. Hello, Graham. Sorry. Gonna have to wrap this up fairly soon, I'm afraid. Done any long distance sailing, multi-day Hobie camping, any setup advice? We have actually been talking about that already in this episode, and we've been going over an hour now. So unfortunately, Graham, I'm gonna have to leave that for now, because I'm running out of throat a little bit. So I've had a bit of some sort of weird sickness. So I'm just going to continue. Aaron says, fixing up a 1977 Hobie 16, and no matter what I do, I can't seem to point the boat as high as I could with monohulls. Is there anything I can do with boat tuning to be able to go a bit higher? Yes. Try. I did mention earlier in the session about the difference in pointing ability between catamarans like the 16 and monohulls. You're never going to be able to sail as high because of the daggerboards on the monohulls. But what you can do, especially with the older 16s, is as standard, they didn't carry as much mast rake as the modern 16s. So what I should try doing is putting the shrouds as low down as possible in the side, in the plates, put the mast back further, and see if that makes a difference. So mast back as far as it will go, but making sure you can still sheet in the main so that the boom isn't actually touching the back beam. That is what I would suggest for that. All right. Leo says, have to go. Have a nice time in Greece. Thank you, Leo. We've got Colt of Dawn on board. Hello. Who says, all right, here we go. Your foe is well equipped, well trained, battle hardened. He believes his boats are on his side. Let him believe what he will. We have the tanks on ours. Wow. Thanks for that. I don't quite know what to make of it, but thanks for that. All right, we got Stayer off grid, says good day from down under. Great to have you with us, and thanks for tuning in at such a time of day. What would it be? About 1:30, I would think. in the morning. So I hope you're doing well. Cult of Dawn says, hey, Joe, do you remember your Shrek video? Yes, you may not be aware of this, but I did make some small features a few years ago. One of them was Shrek. Yeah, check it out. I think I've got a playlist called Club Vass Oscars. You'll see in there some different videos. I think they're still up on the channel. All right, yeah, while when Joyriders present, yeah, those were the days when I had a bit more time on my hands. Do check out, if you're having a look at the Club Vass Oscars, look at the James Bond one as well. That was a very, very good video film that I made. All right, Benny says, don't forget to hit the like button. All right, we got Ratu215. Hello from France. Great to have you with us. Willis says, drink some ginger lemon honey tea for the throat. Thanks for that. I will do, actually. Aaron says, thanks. All right, nice one. So I think we've made it to the bottom of the line to look at. Although I think I am in the stage of my computer. I can't remember whose preloaded question it was, but that is going to have to wait until next time. So thanks very much. Having a bit of a failure now. So thanks very much. And thanks very much. Just finished editing the next video. You're going to like this one. It's a bit longer than the normal ones. It's about 20 minutes long. And it is a focus on whilst sailing a Hobie 16 solo in about 15 knots of wind. So trapezing. And I'll have that out on Sunday at the usual time. So thanks very much. See you soon. Don't forget to hit the like button before you go. And I'll see you.